Hi, my name is BC Hoffman.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And this is Recipe Wars. And today we're doing ginger cookies. So I'm actually super excited. I'm doing Martha Stewart's. And yes, I'm super excited to do Martha Stewart's, I know, but...
Never seen someone so excited to do a Martha Stewart recipe
But
before.
they're gingerbread cookies!
We're gonna make one of my favorite cookies, Chewy chocolate gingerbread cookies, which, what's in the dough, Sarah?
Cocoa powder, it's a few ingredients, but fresh ginger and chocolate chunks and cocoa powder and flour and, you know, butter and the usual ingredients. But yeah.
Okay. So you're making is that a
These
2 ounce?
These are pretty big. These are 1.5-inch balls, and then once you make the balls and roll them into balls, they get chilled, and then they get rolled in sugar.
Oh, I love this part.
Oh, and they're chocolate gingerbread cookies, which makes it so much better, because what's better than chocolate and ginger? I mean, really? If you put bacon in there, maybe that would be.
And if money showered you, that would be good too. But,
That too.
Yeah, tell us about the recipe. What's going on with it?
So I'm really excited about my spices. I've got my cinnamon, my nutmeg, my cloves, my cocoa powder, my salt, my ginger powder. But then again, I also have fresh grated ginger, which I'm gonna be throwing in there. And that is gonna be awesome. And then on top of that, I've got my chocolate going in. Semi-sweet chocolate, 7 ounces of pure delight going in. Everything's gonna be combined with some nice butter. We're gonna have some delicious ginger chocolate cookies.
And I'm doing Paula Deen's recipe for the gingerbread cookies. It is a classic recipe.
I want to show you a wonderful ginger cookie that's going to be so good with our butter pecan ice cream. Now I'm going to start with 3/4 a cup of shortening. I'm going to add a cup of sugar. I'm going to add 1 egg and 1/4 a cup of molasses.
There's no chocolate chips in mine, which I'm a little disappointed on, but like I said, I'm making classic gingerbread cookies, so I'm gonna do it this way. The biggest difference between mine and Martha Stewart's, or Paula Deen's and Martha Stewart's, is he's using butter and I'm using shortening.
Shortening?
Shortening! And we're using the same spices in mine as in BC's, just minus the cocoa powder. So, I'm ready to get started. You?
Let's do this.
All right, so I will use our little mixer first. I'm gonna start by putting shortening in with my sugar. Now we're gonna cream this together. And the funny thing about this, we're actually not making a cream per se. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but you're just gonna be blending these together to make sure they mix well.
While you're doing that, I'm actually gonna grate the ginger. Now a little side note, make sure that you have your oven temperature preheated right now. Yours is going at 325, I believe, or 350. Mine's 325. I'm glad we got that out of the way and corrected. So I'm gonna grate my ginger. First trick to do when you're doing that is make sure you just wanna take a quick spoon and just get that excess skin right off. Peel it that way. So the reason why the spoon works really well on ginger is not only does it not take off too much of the actual peel, it also gets right in between the nooks and the crannies of your ginger. So you're really getting every little bit of that skin right off and keeping the majority of the flesh of your ginger root. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna take your flour, and then once you've got your flour in the bowl, you're gonna take all your spices and you're just gonna knock those right on in there. Boom. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sift the flour with our whisk. And this makes it really just a nice and aerated perfectly, so that way it's good for your cookie. So what really works well is when you sift this with the whisk or with an actual sifter, it actually aerates it, makes the cookie lighter, there's no lumps, and it actually combines everything really well. So you at home have a nice, fluffy, delicious ginger chocolate cookie. So that's sifted right there, and I am ready to use the mixer.
Yeah, well, I'm just almost done. This is just about done creaming. What I'm also gonna do while it's going is I'm gonna add an egg, as well as some molasses. I don't know how big of a fan you are of molasses, but I mean, it is the main ingredient to a gingerbread cookie. Now, if for some reason you have an aversion to molasses, you can use substitutes like honey, maple syrup, or even sweet sorghum syrup, which is often mistaken for molasses. But I mean, if you really want a real gingerbread cookie,
molasses. And here's the thing, if you're using brown sugar already, you kind of already are using molasses, because all that is just granulated sugar that has molasses added to it for the colorization and also the flavor.
You just smell that like deep, rich flavor coming off the mixer. It's great. And you may just have to kind of get in there a little bit with a soft spatula.
Do this
sticking off to the side.
at home when the actual beater is off. Just a side note.
I mean, it's safer, but this is faster.
This is recipe wars. We're going for blood. I'm up.
Now, while he's doing that, I'm gonna do the same exact thing he was doing with all my spices and my flour. Just basically kind of whisk them all together. So you get going on that, and I'll get going on this.
Excellent. So, I'm about to start mixing. Before I do, I'm gonna throw in my butter. I've got 8 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna throw in my molasses. Oh, this is good stuff. Get it going right on in there.
There it is, get it all out of there.
Yes. Now I'm gonna throw in my brown sugar and some fresh and delicious ginger.
Now, the funny thing about ginger is actually used in some areas across the world as like a medicine as well. I know in like Burma, it's used to try and treat flu symptoms, but
it's a digestive actually.
It's everything. Like I've started reading more up on it, just kind of knew we were going to be doing this, and it's used for so many different things. It's a medicine. It's like you said, a digestive. It's obviously a spice, you know.
So little known fact, in 998, it was actually first introduced by an Armenian monk. And then after that, in the 13th century, nuns started using it as a digestive. And in the 16th century, it was actually starting to be sold in monasteries all over. And then it got its popularity, and next thing you know, gingerbread cookies were everywhere. So I'm gonna start doing the gingerbread method on this bad boy right here. So the gingerbread method is basically mixing them slowly into the process of your fats. After you've actually mixed all your fats together, you then slowly add in the dry ingredients. And that's the gingerbread method. It makes cake making a lot easier. I'm gonna just do it up a little bit more.
There you go.
Boom. And I am ready to start putting in, I'm gonna put in half of my flour real quick. So you can actually do a couple different things. Instead of using all-purpose flour, you can use wheat flour. Because we are doing a ginger cookie, it's gonna have such strong flavor from the cinnamon, the cloves, the ginger, the nutmeg, that you're really gonna be able to cover up that wheat flour taste that you would get. Another thing you can do is you can use canola oil in place of butter, or because it's less saturated fat than the butter itself would have, or you can use applesauce. There's a bunch of different ways, as like you were saying with the sugars.
Yeah, applesauce is great. You can actually, applesauce is a one-to-one substitute for things like any type of oils that you might be using when you're cooking as well. So it's also just a good substitute if you're trying to be a little bit healthier when cooking, or if you have somebody that maybe can't have a lot of cholesterol in their foods and things like that.
Another thing, you're gonna throw in your baking soda right now. Throw that right on in there.
There it is.
And then you're good to go once that's in with the rest of your flour. Pop that up. And then lastly, we're gonna throw in our chocolate. And mix that bad boy up. It's beginning to feel a lot like ginger cookies. And one of the big things you wanna make sure is you don't want to over mix your cookie dough. You don't want to over handle the dough, because it's just about being light and airy and keeping it so it's not going to be tough. Basically, you're going to end up getting a
dried out cookie, and no one wants a dried out cookie.
No.
All right, now I'm going to do the same exact thing BC just did. Slowly incorporate all my dry ingredients here, and I'm sure you're going to get started on actually getting your cookies ready to bake, huh?
Yes. But before you do that, another key is make sure you want this dough to rest and chill. And with all cookies, with all bread, you want it to rest at the bare minimum for about 2 hours. So we are going to form these and then throw them into the fridge. Now the key is, another thing is that this recipe actually calls for it to be patted down and put in the fridge just in like almost like a patty form before you actually ball it up. I'm just gonna ball it up and let it chill that way. Get it nice and cold. There you go, that's what you're looking at right there. That's the good stuff. I think all of them are going, we want about 1 inch. Yours calls for 1.5 or 1 inch?
Cookie size?
Yeah.
1.5, but yeah, usually it's 1.5 is a little bit larger of a cookie, so I might, just for cooking purposes, go for that 1 inch.
And
So
so
we're not making a giant cookie. I would like to have a little bit more cookies than necessarily just 4 cookies in my oven.
I'm going for the bigger ones.
There you go.
I'm going 1 inch. But the other thing is you want to make sure that you have space. So we're going to actually knock it so we have about 2 inches in space apart, give or take.
You don't want those cookies blending together and making one giant cookie on your cookie sheet.
Or do you? So I've just made my gingerbread cookies into balls and I was about to roll them in sugar and I realized, you know what? This tray is either way too small or the cookies are way too big. So I'm actually gonna cut these basically in half and make smaller balls before I roll them into the sugar. So I'm just gonna do perfect balls.
You are going small. You're going smaller.
I'm going smaller. And then you're just gonna give them a nice roll in the sugar. Bam, bam, bam. And then drop them right back down.
I'm doing the same exact thing. Just get all that sugar over it. I mean, I have to tell the truth, I did have a piece of my dough just now, and it's just, that's something about gingerbread dough that just brings me back.
Just cookie dough in general.
Oh yeah.
And the beautiful thing about mine is I won't get salmonella like you will because mine actually has no egg, whereas yours, on the other hand, does. So if you start coughing and spitting up, I'll understand why momentarily.
I am not, advising people at home to eat raw eggs, but I'm gonna tell you what, it's gonna take a lot of raw egg to get you salmonella poisoning. So, I mean, remember Rocky drinking raw eggs out of the glass? I think he did just fine.
We both have formed our cookies and we're ready to throw them in the oven now.
Yep, I'm gonna pop mine in at, well, first I'm actually gonna chill mine, and then I'm gonna pop it in the oven at 350 for about 12 minutes or so, just kind of keeping an eye on them to make sure they're not burning or getting too brown, but I think I'm ready to go.
And I'm gonna do the same thing at 325 for 8 to 10 minutes, and we're ready to do this. And just so you know, if you have extra batter at home, you don't have to make all the cookies at once. They're only gonna really be good for 1 to 2 days, unless you have them in an airtight container. So take that extra and throw it in the freezer. It's good for like a month if you have it covered, and you can pull them out whenever you're ready to bake more.
Or you could just gorge on cookies.
Cookie dough. Let's do it. We just cleaned up and now it's time to taste the ginger cookies. Before we go into actually tasting them, just a little side note. To know that they're officially ready, besides knowing it by scent, another way to tell is
By the cracks.
see those little cracks? And on these ones right here with the chocolate, it's a little bit harder because of the fact that there is chocolate in there. So you're like, oh, is it burnt? Is it ready? It's ready. As soon as you see the cracks and as soon as you smell it. So that being said, let's taste.
We'll do yours first.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it. Chocolate ginger.
I mean, you get those immense, that ginger flavor, but it's not really overpowering, which you gotta really watch out. You don't put too much ginger in your recipe, because it can really overpower that cookie and make it a terrible, terrible cookie. But this is a great mixture, and the chocolate chips actually add to it. I've had some instances where I've had desserts in the past with like a ginger chocolate type mixture that something just doesn't seem right, but it's a good compliment. They do complement each other.
Yeah, it's no bitterness. The fresh ginger really stands out, and the chocolate just makes it ooey and gooey and delicious. And it's, again, both of these are great for any holiday party. If you don't want to spend money on a gift, just make some ginger cookies, and you have these at home for holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, whatever it is, you got the perfect gift right here. Let's try yours.
Let's try this. It's a gingerbread cookie.
This is a classic gingerbread cookie. It's classic. I mean, this is, when I have a gingerbread man, this is what I want it to taste like.
I love it because it's not like hard. Like you get some gingerbread cookies, and it's partially because they might be sitting out for a longer time, but they're not soft enough. This is so soft. Yeah.
So this is a little bit drier. This is nice and moist.
I mean, the difference between these two, and the reason obviously mine's gonna be a little, I wouldn't call it dry necessarily, but it's just more crumbly than his, is because of the butter, versus mine, which has the shortening in it. So, I don't know. I'm I'm a little torn because like this, mine is definitely a gingerbread cookie, whereas obviously you can taste the ginger in yours, but then I'm getting more of like a chocolate chip cookie. So now it's that question of, are we going purest gingerbread cookie, or are we going, I'm gonna go, you know what, I know we usually, most cooking is you want the taste, and that's what you want out of it, and I think these are both unbelievably great tasting cookies, but just as a tiebreaker for myself, I'm going purist.
And for you viewers at home from the Recipe Wars kitchen, I totally have to say, I love the ginger cookie. I mean, this is exactly what you want when you get a gingerbread cookie, to a T.
But
I'm with you.
I would highly recommend trying both of these at home.
Make the chocolate one at home.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge chocolate fan, but it's darn delicious. The fresh ginger really stands out, but classic. So, unfortunately, Martha Stewart's chocolate ginger cookie, not the winner, came in second. Amazing. Paula Deen's classic gingerbread cookie came in first as the winner. Both of these are amazing, perfect holiday cookies, holiday gifts right here. Make them at home. My name is BC Hoffman.
I'm Adrian Bustamante.
This has been Recipe Wars. Please subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You keep on watching and we'll keep on cooking.